Kaz Grala is the winner, the youngest driver to win at Daytona in NASCAR National Touring Series history.
Joey Stone just picked up his first career win. Holy cow, what a finish.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of All Clear. I am Joey Stone. He is Kaz Grala. We are breaking down all the action from the weekend of racing at Richmond and also heading into Martinsville as well, which I'm sure is going to be a crazy time for sure. Not a lot of crazy storylines from this weekend, but we do have some ones that I think are up for debate that are really fun to discuss here. And we're just going to jump right into it here and going right out the bat, the Xfinity series, the series that once again never seems to disappoint, especially at a track like Richmond. You got Ty Gibbs versus John Hunter Nemechek, who is running a part-time schedule for Joe Gibbs, while Ty Gibbs is running a full-time schedule. They're roughing each other up a little bit, nothing too crazy. And then on the last lap, Ty Gibbs in turns 3 and 4 doesn't give a bump and run, more of a slam and wham out of the way, go to the checkered flag and whatnot, which left John Hunter Nemechek very frustrated with Ty Gibbs as well, leaving some comments after the race saying that he isn't going to say what he wants to say, otherwise he would get in trouble. So this definitely seems to be the big story cast from the weekend, and we got a lot to talk about too. We'll go to the Cup race and everything, but I really want to start with this one because once again, Ty Gibbs up for, the debate for the big story of the weekend and all. We all know Ty Gibbs is super talented. He is going to be someone who is going to be a name to be reckoned with in the sport for many, many years to come. But once again, the aggressiveness of Ty Gibbs is now a debate again. And we'll jump right here with just talking to you, Kaz, about this, coming from someone who is in the Xfinity series and runs in these races and know what it's like to be aggressive. What's your take on that move and how it all transpired?
Well, I mean, I think we talk about Ty Gibbs' aggression, and I think depending on where he's running, we talked about this a few weeks back when he had the incident with Sieg at Las Vegas, and you look at it and it's like, well, that was not merited to be that aggressive that early in the race, going for 19th or 15th or wherever they
20th, 22nd place. Yeah,
because Ty is going to be up front. In fact, he went on to win that race. So I think there's a time and a place, and he's young, he's hungry, he's feisty, and sometimes he does it in the wrong place or the wrong time. But I think this was the right place and the right time, to be honest with you. I think if you're racing for the win, if that's what's on the line, and you're a real race car driver, you're doing what it takes to win that race. And what I am a firm believer against is I don't think that you should intentionally spin them, wreck them. I don't think that that's ever merited, even when there's a win on the line. However, John Hunter finished second. He moved him up out of the way. He still finished second. He cost him one spot. Nobody hit the wall. There was no damage done. Maybe just some feelings hurt, but no damage other than that. I think if you can come away with a move in the last corner to take the win where nobody hits the wall, there's no damage, and the driver you were racing for the win still finishes second, I think that was fine. I don't think that there's anything that you can say badly about Ty Gibbs in this situation. I think this is more of a situation of John Hunter being a part-time guy in Xfinity, full-time in trucks, of course, but part-time in Xfinity. He's got a large fan following. Ty can be polarizing. He has been in the past with aggressive moves. I think that honestly, the NASCAR Twitter fans just kind of jumped down Ty's throat on this move and maybe made a bigger deal than what should have been made out of this move. Everyone talks about the good old days. Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator. They love when people rough each other up and they go for it. I mean, at the end of the day, you're selling tickets to races because they want to see the best drivers lay it all on the line to try to win these races. That's what you're there for. And that's exactly what happened. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with what happened. Obviously, if you're John Hunter or anybody who was in that position, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, salty, you may say. And so I'm sure that he had negative feelings coming out of the weekend. How can you not? But I don't think that it was anything that was done wrong or anything that shouldn't have been done. It's just, you're racing. One guy wins, and in Xfinity, 37 other guys lose. there's only going to be one guy that leaves that weekend truly happy, and it was Ty Gibbs. So naturally, John Hunter is not going to be as thrilled about it, but that is what I love about racing and about NASCAR, because guess what? We are back at a short track again this weekend at Martinsville. So I don't know if John Hunter's in the race in Xfinity, that is. I'm going to guess he's not, but we're going to see.
I'll check that actually as you're talking.
We'll see Ty Gibbs again. We'll see John Hunter in the truck race. These are guys that are coming out of Richmond feeling like they might have something to prove. Ty to redeem himself or to get back in the good graces of the fans, and John Hunter to prove that he can go get a win, and he's got another chance to do it this weekend. And we've seen tempers fly at Martinsville once or twice before, usually once or twice per lap. So it should definitely make for a good weekend. And going into this weekend's Xfinity race and race as well.
Yeah. And I kind of want to go back on what you mentioned there about that you are totally content with what happened with Gibbs and Nemechek there. I agree. I agree with going for the win. I believe it's a story of two tales here. You have a driver, Ty Gibbs, who's in his first full-time year in the Xfinity Series. Does he necessarily have to prove anything? I don't think so. I think we've already seen what he can do in good equipment. It's just a matter of, going for the championship now and everything, and who's already locked into the playoffs here. But you also have John Hunter Nemechek, which he is a full-time driver for KVM in the truck side, but this is a guy who was just in the Cup Series 2 years ago. And he went back to trucks to go for wins. And I think this is opportunities for John Hunter to show that in the best equipment, he can win any series, anytime, any place he can win. So these wins to me are just as important for John Hunter as they are to Ty Gibbs, because John Hunter, we all know the story. Everybody wants to make it to the Cup Series. That is the end goal. John Hunter got there. He took a step back because he wants to go with a different route. He wants a different path. He's trying to go with the Joe Gibbs route, it seems like, to be one of those future guys in one of the Camrys. But these wins are just as important to him as Ty Gibbs. And I think John Hunter was pretty upset because if you look in 3 and 4, I mean, if you ask me again, I think going for the win is justifiable itself, but he missed the bottom completely. And I think that's the part that John Hunter and a lot of fans were not happy with Ty Gibbs about, was because he didn't even make an attempt to get to the bottom of the track. I guess that's where the frustration comes from, let alone I wasn't one of those frustrated Twitter guys. I just went on Twitter and said he didn't even make an attempt to slow down in the corner. And I guess that's where the frustration is coming from with NASCAR Twitter. And if there's one thing I've learned about NASCAR Twitter from many, many times between before, is at the end of the day, you're better off just not saying a freaking word after a race, man. Let me tell you, the comments and the replies, it's just like, why do I even bother anymore? Like, I'm just going to read Twitter, get some popcorn and just enjoy the show. But yeah, and I guess
I think honestly, the missing the bottom aspect, I think we'd be having a completely different conversation here if John Hunter hit the wall. If Ty sent it in so hard that they were up into the wall, then I'm with NASCAR Twitter. But, missing the bottom, okay, moves them up the track, but no harm, no foul. They both make it through the corner. Ty just gained the position. The truth is, if Ty had run the bottom like you naturally would, John Hunter would have won the race. Running the top, he would have had the top. It would have taken Ty probably a lap or two to get the move done on the bottom, which, had this been 5 laps earlier, I assume is what he would have tried to do. But he didn't have that time. He couldn't afford John Hunter to beat him to the line. So he roughed him up a little bit. But, I think that's perfectly fine. I think it makes for a good show. I think that's what it should be. But you brought up an interesting point to me, which was it necessary? Did Ty need this win? And I feel like that's something that people get into and analyze on Twitter a lot, is, well, John Hunter is trying to prove himself in the Joe Gibbs Xfinity car. He needed it more than Ty. Ty's already got 2 wins this year. That is not how it works in a driver's mind. There's no such thing as, someone needing it more than the other guy. That doesn't exist, because the part that people typically don't see is, every week we spend 5, pretty much 6 days preparing for a race. from Monday all the way until, in this case, Saturday, both Ty Gibbs and John Hunter and everyone else in the field is focused on Richmond, watching Richmond video, reading over previous notes in the simulator, going over data. Everything's about Richmond. You eat, sleep, and breathe Richmond for a week because you are trying to put your best foot forward and be able to go win a race. That's what you're all there for. And when you get 249 laps in and the checkered flag is just around that next corner and you are there for the win, there's no such thing as who needs it more. You need it. Every driver in that moment needs it and feels like they need it more than anybody else out there, because John Hunter getting a win does absolutely nothing for Ty, and vice versa. So you're out there for yourself. They may have been teammates on the track, sure, but inside the helmets, nobody's teammates. You know, you might be a little nicer to a teammate, but you're trying to beat them just like you're trying to beat the 37 other guys out there.
Edwards and Kyle Busch a few years ago at Richmond. Edwards just drove it in, ran Busch out of the way. Everyone was shocked by that. No one thought that was going to happen. And that happened as well. We've seen teammates rough each other up. Johnson, Gordon. I mean, it happens. No one else winning a race helps your career. You winning a race helps your career. Nothing else. And for the record, I just want to say I am not saying Ty Gibbs should have let John Hunter and Nemechek win. I was not saying that whatsoever. I was just saying more the fact that, you know, there are two tails to the end of it. Ty Gibbs, young guy, full-time opportunity here, trying to go win every single race possible. John Hunter, future, you know, uncertain, right? Is he going to be back in the Cup Series one day? Just trying to prove himself in this equipment that he can be a full-time Xfinity driver for Gibbs, or, you know, work up the ranks. So just two tails there. And I can understand where the frustration came from John Hunter and whatnot, but continue on from what you were saying though.
Yeah. Well, and there's an art to it too, to move somebody out of the way. That is something that you can't practice on a simulator. You can't study. You don't really get the opportunity to do unless you're racing for a win, because that's also something that you don't utilize if you're in 8th that day or 15th. You're not doing that. It's really when the win is on the line that you might need to ruffle some feathers to be able to get that win. So it's few and far between that you get the chance to do that and practice that. And I think Ty did a great job of it, because, you know, it's similar to the Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards situation at Richmond years ago. That was very, very well done as well. They still finished first and second. But how many times do you see situations where they try to do that and they actually end up wrecking the guy, or they end up wrecking each other? You know, both of you end up losing the race because of it. That all the time. So I think that even though some may disagree with Ty's move, you got to look at it and be like, you know, Ty made an effort to make this move. He came out on top. John Hunter came out second. That was about as good as you could possibly execute that at Richmond. That was exactly what he needed to do. If he goes in there and he spins John Hunter out, or he stuffs John Hunter in the wall, and John Hunter, you know, can't cross the start-finish line, finishes 26th, we got a whole different conversation. But he did a good job, and those are two guys that I have no doubt will be racing for wins in Xfinity for years to come, maybe in Cup again one day for John Hunter, and I'm sure Ty will be there as well. So I doubt we've seen the last of this little blossoming rivalry, and I'm excited to see the next chapter.
A new rivalry right around the corner, y'all. Nemechek versus Gibbs. What will happen next? You know, people have been asking about this, Kaz, and like we don't know the situation at Gibbs, right? We know Mars / M&M's, they're leaving Kyle Busch, you know, after the end of this year and everything. We haven't heard anything about Kyle Busch. We haven't heard anything about the future of Joe Gibbs. Do you think it's too soon? Do you think Ty Gibbs could be a Cup driver next year? Do you think it could happen?
I would say you never know. It could. I probably wouldn't think that would be the best decision, and I would imagine Joe Gibbs is smart enough to kind of know there's no reason to rush it. I think for Ty to mature as a driver and to truly be ready, not only with his confidence, but with his patience to move to the Cup Series, I think is very, very necessary, because in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, there are teams that will have really good dominant cars every week. That 54 car is one of those. There is not a weekend that car shows up and isn't fast enough to win the race. Cup's a different animal. Even the best teams, the Kyle Larson in the 5 car, there are weeks that he runs 8th. There are weeks that he runs 15th. It's impossible and unsustainable in Cup to possibly dominate the series. So you're going to have those tough days. And that's something that Ty really hasn't had much of really in his career. That will be new to him. Having a day where the best he can run is 12th and fighting for that will be something he's never seen before. So I think in order to mature and have that patience and be able to handle those situations, I think another year in Xfinity will be good. Not to mention a lot of wins. You leave him in Xfinity for another year, there's going to be a lot more trophies, a lot more wins, and even less debate on whether he deserves a Cup seat. If you rush him too quickly, you're sitting in a position as Joe Gibbs. Everyone knows it's your grandson. Immediately, you're going to have haters. You're going to have people that question, well, is this right? Does he deserve that? Did he just get there because he's the grandson? I would say so far he's absolutely proving that isn't the case. But give him another year of domination, another year to try to go for a championship, and all of a sudden he gets there, and there's absolutely no denying that he should be there. But I don't know if I see any of the Gibbs drivers leaving after this year. Some of them are getting up there in age. So I do see those seats becoming available in the future, not too far from now. Next year, I'm not sure. But you look at Truex, he's probably got a few more years at most. Denny, probably the same. Kyle's a couple years younger than those guys. And I expect he will race as long as he possibly can. But still, he's up there. He's mid to high 30s himself. So I think that there are seats that will become available at Gibbs. And there's no doubt in my mind Ty is getting one of them. And I would definitely guess that the whole purpose of John Hunter's move back to trucks for KBM, part-time for Joe Gibbs and Xfinity, is to try to position himself to be able to take over one of those seats as well. So I think you're going to see a changing of point. It's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of seasons how the Joe Gibbs Xfinity program develops, because it's going to be a dogfight within that organization, ego-wise, driver-wise, competition-wise, for who's going to position themselves best to get the Cup seats.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you that question to bring that up when it comes to maturity and everything. Does Ty Gibbs have the talent to, handle a Cup car and everything, in a year or two? I think so, absolutely. But it comes down to the fact, like you just mentioned, Ty is so used to winning. He is so used to running in top 5 every single week in that car. Doesn't matter if he spins out twice. Most of the time he's up there in the top 10 or 5 by the end of the race, and let alone going for a win. It would be a huge change for Ty Gibbs to go to the Cup. And the reason why I brought that up was because it was actually a pretty big topic over Twitter and Instagram and Reddit, just by looking at things, because people are putting the pieces together that, Kyle Busch is losing sponsorship. Is he going to leave Joe Gibbs Racing? Is this Ty Gibbs' opportunity? And there's a lot of people saying, yes, he can go up there now. There's people saying, no, now is not the time. And I think after already winning, his 3rd race of the year already this year, he's already off to what he did last year by winning lots of races. Now he's going to be pretty much be going for a championship. Ty Gibbs not making the Final 4 this year would be the biggest shock of the season. If you ask me, it would be the biggest shock, let alone. But speaking of shocking, I want to give a huge shout out to 2 very young and talented drivers that made their marks this weekend. Made this weekend, I think a couple weeks ago, but Parker Retzloff, who, let alone, came from the iRacing side, right? We've seen this play out before. William Byron, we all know him.
In the woods a little bit.
Yeah, I know, right? So, I mean, hey, respect to Parker, man. I love this kid. He's awesome. He got his, I believe I'm looking at it right here, his first career top 10 in the Xfinity Series in his second start. And this wasn't just a fluke. He was up in the top 6 or 7 in stage 1 and 2, for a good part. And that just goes to show you, man, it doesn't matter where you come from, as long as you got the work ethic and you put the time in, no matter if it's on a simulator or in a real car, you can get there. And I also want to shout out Raja Karuth, who is also your teammate as well. Though he did not maybe get the result he probably wanted to get, to still bring the car home clean. I believe he finished 24th, I imagine. I think that's where it was 24th. Hey, he kept the car clean. He kept that car clean. He was in a pretty stacked field as well. And this is only the start of what I think is going to be a great career for Raja. And I think those two young guns right there did an amazing, amazing job showing that the Xfinity Series has a lot of bright stars coming their way. It's like you mentioned, changing of the guard a little bit, right? We got Noah Gragson, Justin Allgaier, all those guys now. Hey, 2-3 years from now, Noah's probably going to be Cup racing. Justin Allgaier may or may not be retired by that point. We don't know. Josh Berry, what's he gonna do? Brandon Jones, just naming some guys who've been in the Xfinity Series for a while. These are the guys who are wanting to be the next big names in the Xfinity Series. And I think Parker and Raja are two of those names that we got to watch out for down the road. So I know you kind of wanted to touch base on Parker and Raja a little bit, Kaz. So what are your thoughts on their good performances there?
Yeah, I was super thrilled to see it for Raja, my Alpha Prime Racing teammate there. I think he did a great job. I know firsthand from this year, the Xfinity Series is tough. It is deeper than ever, stacked. It's hard to even make the races, let alone do well in them. So
that's a good thing, though. That's a good thing.
Oh yeah,
that's a great thing.
It's healthy for the sport, healthy for the series. But man, it's a tough time to get in. I got to say, you don't get much practice, and you pretty much ship straight out into the race. And Raja did a great job. 24th. I'd say is solid. To run top 25 with Alpha Prime is a really good day. To run top 20, even near top 15 for Alpha Prime, that is a full-blown win for the organization. It's a brand new team. They're getting their footing. I think a 24th place finish for them is good points. It's a good confidence booster. It's a good place to build on for Raja. So that was cool to see. And yeah, Parker Retzloff, how about that? I know nothing about this kid other than he raced in this iRacing series with me during COVID. It was put on by Parker Kligerman. It was live streamed. It was every Wednesday night. I cannot remember the name of the series, but
is it E-Racer? Was it E-Racer?
I don't know. It was something Night Thunder, but it wasn't Thursday Night Thunder. They did that too.
I know what you're talking about now. I know what the series is, but I can't remember the name.
It was Wednesday nights, and it got great fields. It was mostly NASCAR guys, people that Parker knew. So pretty much everyone were NASCAR racers, IndyCar racers. I want to say even maybe Connor Daly might have been in it, or Santino Ferrucci, I think, was in it. But I believe Parker must know Parker through iRacing maybe, because I know Parker Retzloff was in that series. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous and insane. He won every Wednesday night of the whole series. Swept the whole thing. I don't think he ever didn't lead a lap. He qualified on the pole and won every Wednesday night. And I remember all of us, like, guys that know each other through NASCAR, thinking like, all right, sure, we know how to drive, getting absolutely killed. Nobody knew who he was. And we're out there, like throwing hands for like 12th, 15th in these races, everything that we could do to try to get up front. This kid was just sailing out in the lead, driving away from the pack like it was nothing with a fixed setup. So we were just scratching our heads. That was the only thing I knew his name from. I remember being frustrated every Wednesday night about getting spanked by this kid. And then how about that? He goes out in Phoenix, makes his Xfinity debut, qualifies like 6th, I think, out there.
Ran pretty solid too, until he had I think it was a mechanical issue that took him out of the race.
Yeah. And then Richmond, he goes out. I think he qualified respectably, not as good as he did before. But all of a sudden, he marches forward. He's top 12, even top 10 for most of the day. And one thing they even highlighted on the broadcast was the team was really struggling on pit lane. They would lose.
Yeah.
12 spots on every stop, which is not uncommon for a mid-budget team like Ryan Sieg's. Obviously, they do a good job. They build good cars, but if you're not a Cup affiliated team in RCR, Junior Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, your pit crews are probably not going to be quite up to their level. And so, sure enough, running that close to the front, the pit crew was having a tough time hanging there, and lost some spots every time. And this kid continued to drive up through back to the top 10 every time. And I believe he finished
most passes of the race. Most passes of the race. It was confirmed. Yep.
So really impressive for him. Now, one thing I will say, Richmond is a straightforward short track. I feel like there's a lot on iRacing, a lot in late models that kind of translate to that racetrack. One thing he has not seen yet, and I'm not sure if he will this year or not, I don't know what his schedule consists of, but he has yet to discover air. When you get to 1.5 miles, things change a lot. The way you have to race the cars, the way you have to position your car and set up passes is a lot different. Richmond was more about the tire conservation and being careful on the throttle pedal, which you iRacers are very, very, very good at. And I know I always get killed on iRacing by the iRacers themselves at the end of the runs on tire wear. So I would say very impressed with what he did at Richmond, but I can't say I'm surprised because I've seen how good he is on iRacing. I'll be really curious to see him get his feet wet on the bigger tracks and discover a little bit more about what the fast super speedway style racing is like at the national level in NASCAR.
Want to mention real quick the rest of Parker Retzloff's schedule here. He will actually be racing this weekend at Martinsville Speedway. So we have another short track. This could be a track where he has a good run. He is known for his short track abilities. Then, like you mentioned, Kaz, it starts to get more intense for him. You got Dover, Nashville, Atlanta. It's more of a plate race there. Pocono, Kansas, Bristol, and Phoenix. So he's going to have a good mixture of lots of different tracks, which I like that they did for him.
They did a great job picking that schedule, it sounds like.
Because the first few races are sort of like short track sort of feel to it. So they're getting him comfortable. They're getting him very comfortable into the car. Then they're going to tackle some bigger tracks, more challenging tracks, maybe like Nashville and, like Pocono was on there. Kansas was on there as well. But like I mentioned before, you mentioned before about the pit crew, man. I think if he had a B+, A- tier pit crew, I think he could have been up there in the top 3 or 4 at the end of that race. Possibly. It looked like his car was amazing on the long runs.
Yeah.
He just didn't have anything to show for it right there.
I think he would have had a shot at the top 5. Absolutely. And the one that stands out on that schedule to me is Kansas. Pocono is a funky track, very unique. Yes, it's fast, it's big, so there'll be air, but it's kind of a unique place. Nashville is a hybrid. It's like between 1 mile and 1.5 miles. I think it's 1 1/3 miles. Dover
something like that
is 1 mile, but Kansas is the one that he's really going to feel the effects of the air and get the true basic 1.5 miles, 101 crash course, hopefully not crash course. So that's going to be an interesting one, but it sounds like it's later in his schedule. So you're right. I think they planned it well. He's going to be able to build up his confidence in driving in Xfinity, hopefully get some good runs under his belt after just this weekend so that by the time he gets to Kansas, he's feeling good, tackling a new challenge, ready for it. We talk about these young guys, Joey. We're just casually omitting the fact that an 18-year-old won $100,000 on Saturday. How about that?
I know, right? Sam Mayer. That's a name that really a lot of people haven't talked about too much this year. I mean, people kind of knew. I even told myself that I think he's going to have sort of like an underdog year, right? He's going to get better and better as the year goes on. I've noticed he's already made less mistakes than he did last year. It just seems like he's matured more behind the wheel. Last year, I can't remember what it was. I think he got into his teammate one race that cost his teammate the win. I can't remember what race it was. I think it was Bristol. It might have been Bristol or something like that. Anyways.
Kansas, maybe.
No. I remember it now because he accidentally right hooked Gregson into the wall on the front stretch when Gregson was fighting for, to get to the Final Four, which he did. But that was a really heated debate. It's like, why are you racing your teammate who's trying to make the Final Four like that? But it seems as though he's learned a lot already. A very mature young driver who was pretty quiet throughout most of the race, but at the end, there he is working his way up to the front, takes away $100,000 from, honestly, probably the most experienced veteran in the Xfinity Series, AJ Allmendinger. So, dude, the young guns, man, this is where names are made, the Xfinity Series, and Sam Mayer is going to be one of those names.
Yeah, and this will kind of transition us perfectly into our Cup discussion, because one of the things you always have at Richmond is, do you set your car up for the short run or do you set your car up for the long run?
Long run.
And it's such a difficult decision because you don't know how the race is going to play out. How many times this year in all of the series have we seen races end in overtime or with multiple late cautions? All the time. So you're going to want a short run car for that. And AJ had that. AJ ran top 3 all day long, had plenty of speed, but we heard him talk about it after the race. They didn't have the handling for the long run. And of course, stage 3 goes green very, very long to the end. And Sam Mayer had just enough time to let his car come to him, run AJ down, and defeat the gap that AJ had built up and go ahead and pass him to win the $100,000. So that's something we saw once again on Sunday with Denny Hamlin, much like Sam Mayer. Didn't really have a very loud, exciting race. He wasn't really making any headlines until late in the race. His team was on a strategy that set his car up to be better on the long run. And sure enough, that's what he needed. He powered by Byron with just a few laps to go and got the win. So I've seen a lot of people talking about, were the races this weekend good? And I do think people have gotten a little bit, I'll say, spoiled this year so far with the next gen cars. There has been a lot of carnage, a lot of crashes, a lot of people trying to figure out these new cars, which, as we know, fans love it. Fans love action. They love drama. They love storylines. They love a little bit of crashing here and there. Absolutely. I'm guilty of it myself. When I watch a race, I root for excitement. I don't even root for anyone in particular to win the race as much as I root for excitement. I love a late race caution. I love an overtime finish. I as a competitor, as an athlete, I live for those adrenaline-packed moments. So that is really good. And we didn't have the carnage this weekend that we've had all year at Richmond. So naturally, people were questioning whether it was a good race or not. Well, if you ask me, I think it was a great race, because I think what you saw this weekend was a display of drivers and teams operating at their absolute highest potential. You had drivers on on 2-stop strategies versus 3-stop strategies. In stage 2, actually, I believe it was 2-stop versus 1-stop.
Yes.
But I remember watching the drivers on the 2-stop strategy obviously have to come from behind because they pitted, but now they had fresher tires. Their total time to do that stage, because there were no yellows, was actually faster than the drivers that only stopped once, because their tire life had to last so much longer. And you, as an iRacer, know how much fun it is in an iRace when strategy comes into play, when a little bit of tire conservation comes into play. It's every bit as satisfying beating somebody else by outsmarting them as it is by out driving
you
them.
feel like Cole Trickle in Days of Thunder ripping through that field and just swerving left and right. There's no other better feeling on iRacing or NASCAR heat or anywhere when you have fresher tires, you played the strategy right, you just got a smirk on your face and you're like, you better get out of my way. And it's a great feeling.
And here's the thing that happens totally behind the scenes that nobody even sees is these teams now are developing software in-house by their engineers that are artificial intelligence systems that can look at the race as a whole and determine what the best pitting strategy is going to be. So this software will tell you, all right, the stage is this length. It knows exactly what the tire fall off is based on previous data. It knows exactly what your pit crew's average time on pit road is, what your driver's average time driving on pit road is. It even factors in when your driver comes off pit road, where are they blending into traffic based on what everyone else's pit strategies will be. Are you going to get a nice clean hole where you can make some time up? Are you going to be released out of the blend line right into a pack that's going to hold you up? This system that they're building and improving every week is telling these teams all the information that they could possibly want. So you can see the teams that their software, the way they've written it and scienced out all the variables, was telling them that a two-stop strategy was going to be the fastest way for them in this stage. And you've got other teams who are factoring for one stop because their engineers feel, based on their numbers and their math, that one stop is going to be the way to go. And then there's risk versus reward. If you're on the one-stop strategy, you are much more likely to catch a break with yellow, because all of this that we're talking about, the most efficient way to run a stage, is assuming it runs green. If you just pitted on your two-stop strategy and the yellow comes out, you're trapped a lap, maybe two down.
More than likely done.
You're in big trouble. You've got the drivers that did the one-stop. That's guarding much more against cautions. They're going to be far less in danger at any point in that stage if a caution does come out. So those drivers may have known, all right, this isn't going to be the best way, but it's the safe way. I know I'm not going to win the stage. Maybe I'll finish 5th or 6th, but if a yellow comes out, my day's not done. In fact, we're on the better strategy at that point. So I, as a fan, knowing the way these teams handle these decisions and the way the drivers have to drive their cars, I absolutely love seeing these different strategies. And ultimately, it ended up coming down to the end of the race. Denny Hamlin made one additional pit stop in stage 3 than William Byron did. So William Byron dominates stage 3. He leads most of it. Well, that's because he pitted less. Denny takes that pit stop, falls way back, and is absolutely in danger. If a yellow comes out, he's lost all track.
He was a lap down. No, he was literally a lap down with like 50 laps to go in the race. It looked as if, like, why would he pit again with 50 laps to go? And the thing that many people I saw, and again, like we talked about before we hit the record button on the show, that Kaz got to watch more of the race than I did. I was preoccupied hitting home runs over a fence and everything. That's a story for another day. But there was a ticker, and I saw this, and I can't believe Fox didn't show this. The time from when Hamlin was a lap down going up to Byron was the true old-fashioned edition of NASCAR strategy racing. And we've seen this before. And I like what you mentioned before about you think people have been spoiled so far this year. That's not a bad thing. The racing we've seen so far this year has been amazing. It's been an amazing start with this new car and everything, the new approach NASCAR is going. But it's kind of good to take a step back and see the old ways of strategic racing and tire management at a short track like this. I mean, there's one race that comes into my mind when I look at the way Hamlin just charged up to the front. 2012, the race to make it into the chase, Jeff Gordon versus Kyle Busch. Gordon was like 25th with like 55, 60 to go. He pits and charges all the way around the field and almost wins the race, locks himself in. Kyle Busch knocked out of the playoffs. That's the racing we saw this time around. And it's been, oh my gosh, it's been almost 10 years. Man, we're getting old. It's been 10 years. But you're right. I think people have been spoiled a little bit. But that, again, not a bad thing. But it's good to kind of go back and see this old kind of way of racing. We saw Denny Hamlin, who is one of the best drivers at Richmond, on tire strategy, work his way up and take the win away with like 5 laps to go. But here comes Kevin Harvick as well. Harvick was right there too. It was a good finish. I thought it was a really good finish from the highlights I saw and everything. But yet people are still not satisfied. And that's kind of a problem to me, if you ask me, because we can't take all of the old racing away. You need to have strategic racing. It's part of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Richmond is probably my favorite oval track, honestly. I think it's got a little bit of everything. It's a fast place. It isn't slow. It's not really small and short. It's got a little bit of banking to it, so it's quick. but you've got a lot of tire degradation. You've got a lot of strategy. You got a lot of risk and reward. It's a place that if you do pit, you will go a lap down because it's short enough. But as we saw, the tires can bring you right back. And I absolutely loved that. I think the fans have been spoiled this year with chaos, which I think is great. I think that the drivers at the top level of our sport in the United States should be challenged with a car like the next gen car. It shouldn't be easy to drive. There should be crashes. There should be mistakes, and there have been. But I think that this weekend everyone was spoiled once again, and I hope that everybody will come to see that this was called good racing. It may not have been crashing. It may not have been tempers flaring and beating and banging. This was good racing. And I remember sitting on the edge of my seat on Sunday watching. I caught it long before the TV commentators even did. You know, everyone was preoccupied with, is Truex going to slowly reel in Byron or not? And I'm looking at it, and I'm watching how much time Hamlin is shaving off, and he's in 6th, and he's in 5th.
FedEx delivery coming in first.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, guys, forget Truex. That's not where the race is.
Watch that 11 car.
The race is Denny and Harvick. Are they going to have enough time to catch Byron and Truex? And I was really, really at the edge of my seat. And even after Denny passed Byron with 5 to go, you might think it was anticlimactic. No, Harvick was right with him. Even down to the last lap, it looked like Harvick was maybe going to have a shot, depending on how the lap traffic fell. He wasn't out of the race by any stretch. So I loved it. I thought it was good. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Denny Hamlin was my pick last week. He was my prediction for the Cup race, and it was a little bit of an outrageous prediction based on the way the 11 car has had this season. They haven't been very good. They've had a bad luck. But I knew Denny, his ability to keep the rear tires under him and feel a car on a short track is second to none. And he did prevail once again. It was a race of the old guys at the finish there, which was interesting, much different than we've seen all year. It's been all young guys all weekend, all year long. And finally, we had a couple over 40s take home the first and second spots this weekend. So does this mean that we're going to see the old guys start to rise back to the top again?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's tough. I mean, it's a coin toss. You know, I think when it comes to strategic racing, the veterans are going to have the upper hand no matter what. When it comes to raw speed, aggressiveness, and whatnot, I always will take the younger guys because those guys are not afraid to push it and to get everything out of the car. Ross Chastain, for example, just to name a guy right there. But when you got experienced guys like Denny Hamlin and Harvick who have ran on tracks like this at Richmond, who have had times where they've had to save tire numerous times throughout their career at the top level, those guys are always going to come out on top. And they have crew chiefs like Chris Gabehart and Rodney Childress, I came from it. Is it Ronnie Childers, right? Yeah.
Childers, yeah.
I'm about to say he's not related to Childress. No, that's not right. But when you got crew chiefs like that and drivers like that have such an amazing relationship, they trust one another, right? If you're Denny Hamlin, if you're Chris Gabehart, you're telling Denny, it's like, Denny, come in. I promise you, you're gonna have a shot to win this race. Come in right now. What do you think Denny's gonna do? He's gonna go in. And he knows the situation. He says, okay, we got 55, 60 laps to go. It's go time. Okay. These tires are old. Let me save the tire a little bit, not burn them off completely, and let me get a run to this thing. And look what Hamlin did. He took the lead with 5 to go. Harvick was right behind him. Two of the most popular drivers in the sport who've been around for a long time, duking it out for Richmond on that last lap or two. Pretty cool, if you ask me. I just think people have been spoiled so far this year. They wanted to see a little bit more chaos, and that's why maybe they weren't really fans of this race because Richmond is technically a short track, right? But when was the last time we honestly had a chaotic Richmond race off recent memory? No,
Richmond is not a track that you get a ton of wrecks at. It just isn't. Yeah. Although I did see a replay I think it was on the pre-race show that a previous year at Richmond there was like a 28 car crash. But yeah, typically you're not going to look at Richmond as being a chaotic track. But yeah, the next gen car, the whole point of it is to try to give more teams chances, keep things a little bit more equal. And I think we saw that. We had Byron a second and a half ahead of Truex. He was right there. And you saw Denny and Harvick come through right nose to tail with each other. You know, this wasn't a race that somebody stretched out a 12-second lead and won anticlimactically like we have seen happen before. And I'm not saying that won't ever happen again. It absolutely could. But I'd look at a race like that as one that people can complain about and say, well, it wasn't that exciting. Okay, I agree. Still, you're looking at a top-level race with somebody that dominated and did an impressive job, and you got to witness that. I think that's incredibly impressive, and I don't think should be looked at as disappointing. I think that's an unbelievable display of talent if they're able to do that. But this weekend wasn't that. We had cars battling for the win. We had differing strategies, and we had close calls and tight battles. I don't think you can ask for anything else. I thought it was great. If you lacked carnage last week, we're heading to Martinsville. Usually
just get ready.
Top delivering carnage tracks. So I'm hoping that everybody can kind of get their fix again of maybe some crashes and everybody go back to being happy. But I am so excited for this weekend. We got all three series, night races, trucks tomorrow night, Xfinity Friday night, Cup Saturday night. It's going to be really good. The first time we see the next gen cars with those big brakes and the sturdy bumpers take on Martinsville, there's no doubt that people are going to be able to be more aggressive than ever before with this new car. And I hope that we do get to see that. And then Trucks and Xfinity, name the last time they disappointed at Martinsville. It's going to be good. It's going to be action-packed, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
I'm right there with you, man. I am very excited for Martinsville. No matter what, whether it's the playoff race or the spring race, I think everyone's emotions are just filled of excitement when it comes to this weekend. You know, Martinsville 10, 15 years ago was a track everyone's like, oh yeah, Martinsville, that should be a fun place. I don't know what it's been the last 10 years or so, but it's just taken a whole new level when it comes to excitement because of all the drama we've seen, all the fights, the tempers, the arguments in the playoff race, even in the spring race too. It's going to be great. I'm really excited to see this. But again, we've seen this car run at a short track like this before, the LA Coliseum earlier this year. Martinsville is a bit longer, though. They will be able to have at least a front and back straightaway when it comes to actually hitting the throttle for more than 3 seconds. So it's going to be a bit different, but if you guys are ready for excitement, if you guys are ready for some chaos, go watch the LA Coliseum race. You're probably going to see somewhat close to that this weekend, I think, because these cars are, from what the drivers have said, are so much fun to drive. They are like on the edge. You can really send it in there on the corner and get on the brakes, from what Justin told us a couple episodes ago, how these cars handle. So expect an amazing show. Now that we're on to the topic of Martinsville, Kaz, you're right about Denny Hamlin. I give you props. I picked Alex Bowman. He finished 8th, solid run. Thought he'd be a little bit better and everything after how he ran it at a Coda. Kaz, who was your pick for Martinsville? Who was going to win under the lights on Saturday?
I think we get yet another new winner this year. Not
Okay.
new ever, but new for this year. I think Chase Elliott is going to go to victory lane for his first time in 2022 at Martinsville. I feel like Martinsville under the lights owes him one. And he's been probably the strongest at Martinsville over the last couple of years. Now it's a new car, but I look to him to be strong.
Okay. All right. I like the pick. You know, he's won there before. He's got lots of history at that track already. And he is known to be, that's one of his best tracks, arguably. So I like that pick. I like it, especially that he hasn't won yet, which some find shocking. I don't really find it too shocking though, with this new car, but he was someone I was going to pick, but you took him, but that's okay because I had a couple drivers and names. So I also think we are going to have a new winner for this weekend, but it will be a first-time Cup winner, okay? Buddy, I'm putting you on the spot, but I like the way you drove at LA. Give me Tyler Reddick of Martinsville. I like the way he drove at LA Coliseum. Looked as if though he probably had the best car there until he made a driver error when it came to, I think it was shifting, I believe was the issue that he had. So hopefully this time around, he learned his lesson from LA. He takes it to Martinsville. If he doesn't win, I expect top 5 out of him. I think he's just gotten so much better as a driver, let alone on the short tracks. Tyler Reddick, first career win under the lights in Martinsville. I so hope he doesn't make me eat my words, because I want to see our guy win a race here pretty soon. But we pretty much hit all the topics that were needed to discuss here. I guess, Kaz, before we end the episode, is there any other little side stories going on that you wanted to bring up, or any tip of the hat to?
No, I think we covered it well. I'm hoping that your pick is right. I'd love to see that for our buddy Tyler. That'd be cool. And if that's the case, then we're definitely going to have him on the show soon. But we'll see between him and Chase. We'll see who prevails this weekend. So you and I will be fighting for bragging rights for next week's episode. But yeah, I'm pumped for the weekend, and we won't have a shortage of storylines to talk about on next week's episode. I can promise you that. So I'm looking forward already.
Absolutely not, indeed. Hey, whether it's a long episode or a short episode, Kaz and I always make sure to give you guys all the news and excitement. And of course, some good stories along the way as well, guys. But that is now the episode right there. We've covered everything. Thank you so much for watching. He's Kaz Gralla. I'm Joey Stone. And now, guys, you are officially all clear heading to Martinsville. We'll see you guys next week.